back, everybody. Charley Hogwood with Survival Dispatch. Today, I want to talk about family continuity of operations. So, first of all, as you all now know, we are in an official global pandemic situation. The virus has gotten to the point where the World Health Organization has finally admitted what we've all known for some weeks now, that we are in a pandemic situation. So while many of us have prepared for the situation, and you're probably enjoying a little bit of a "I told you so" moment as a self-reliant person to your friends who are at this point deer in the headlight looks like, what's going on and what do I do? Maybe you don't look quite so crazy as you did last week, or maybe last month. So what we need to do now is we need to now put our plans into action. You've got all these plans, you've got all this gear, you've worked this up, you've mind gamed it, mental gamed it, you've war gamed it, you've thought it 6 ways to Sunday about what you're going to do, right? Okay, so let's now the situation, we actually have a real world situation that is not just individualized. It's not just, okay, I got the flat tire, I lost the job, I need my food storage, for whatever reason. Now, everybody is in the same boat. We're all facing this, regardless of how we perceive the severity of the illness. So let's forget about that for now. It doesn't matter whether you think the flu is worse or what it is. Let's just move forward and deal with this, and deal with the people around us that are going to be in the way, or all of a sudden friendly when you've got toilet paper and they don't. So that's that's that OPSEC thing that we've always talked about. So pretty much every aspect of preparedness that we've always tried to inculcate into other people, that they've been like, forget about that, I don't need that, I'll come to your house. Well, guess what? Now they might actually come to your house. So, but what happens when somebody in your family gets sick or something happens? So let's put those plans into action. We've got to shore some stuff up. Let's think about what's going to go wrong here. You might have months worth of food stored up. You might have thought about a few realistic scenarios and that might come around. So now that they have, I'm going to recommend you get your family together. Your family, your survival group, your tribe, your friends, your team, whatever you're calling it, your MAG. I'm partial to that too. The book I wrote, Survival Group Handbook, covers a lot of this stuff. And this is why that book was written, is specifically for these kinds of instances. So I recommend getting the family together and look at your everyday operations for each member of the family. So if it's just you, then you know that this is what you deal with every day. You're in this box and you know how to deal with your world. But if you've got a spouse, you've got children, you've got pets, you've got grandparents, in-laws, extended family, cousins, whatever it is, it could be the neighbors down the street. It could be grandma 3 doors down that is not even your grandma, but you've kind of adopted, her care and helping her with things. Start thinking about now, how will that affect, this new situation will affect my relationship or operations with these people. So sit the family down, start with your family unit first before you start dealing with your group, and say, okay, what could you do if illness brings one of you down? We have a tendency to be more independent as self-reliant people, and we might say, that's not going to happen to me. The rest of the world's going to perish in this pandemic, and I'll be just fine. Well, what if that's not the case? So go around the table to your spouse. Okay, your job requires this. This is what we need. This is what you contribute to the family unit. What happens if that's no more? So if you're ill, how will we work around that? And do that with everybody around the table. If it's the kids, it could be teenagers, doesn't matter who it is, they all have a role to play in the family. So then say, okay, well, what would you do if the school shut down and you've got kids in school? Now the kids have to have somewhere to go. Because if the school shut down, in all likelihood, if your kids go to a daycare, the daycares are going to shut down too, because the daycares generally follow the public school schedules. So if the public schools go down, so do the daycare. Everybody goes home same time. How are you going to manage that? Who's going to watch the kids? I know that if I've got my 2 small kids, I'm not getting anything done. They need something, they're hungry, the TV's not playing right, whatever it is. they're going to interrupt your work. So if the school shuts down, the kids have to stay home, you have to think about that contingency. What would you do if your work shuts down? Are you staying home now? Is your job a job that does not translate to telework, to telecommuting? If you are in a service job that you have to be there to actually perform your duty, then you don't really have an option to stay home to do that same duty. If you have a job where you work off the computer and you can telework, remote work, and still get something done, then that's fantastic. You keep that income coming in. But now you still got to what are you going to do about the kids? The kids are still crawling all over you while you're trying to focus on getting some work done. What are you going to do? So these are all questions I'm saying that we've got to address. Do you have the connectivity? Do you have the equipment, the laptop, the access to your work to work from home? So start answering that question. There's a couple of emergency management terms. One is called a cold site and one is a hot site. A cold site means you just show up and there is no connectivity. You'd have to build it from the ground up to make it work. And a hot site means you can just take your laptop home, plug it into the internet, log into your VPN or whatever your work access is, and then you can keep going. And that's how I'm going to relate that to the home level of off-site disaster response teleworking. So do you have that? Is your internet fast enough? Do you have the access and logins that you would need to get into your corporate servers and so forth? Because a lot of corporate offices don't let you use personal computers to access their systems. So that's why they give laptops out. So if you got a home desktop and they may not let you work from home to do that. So got to sort that stuff out with your office as part of their continuity of operations plans, as part of their disaster planning. So those are all things, if you're the boss and you run your own company, these are all things that you've got to think about because your employees are going to face the same issues. So connectivity and equipment to work from home, very important. Who's going to watch the kids while you work? Very important. Do you have the supplies to shut in for a few weeks? Now, my clients, when they ask me, and I'm getting a lot of calls, what do I do now? I always say, I would like to see you have enough supplies to lock the door and don't go outside for 3 months. And they're like, 3 months, that's a lot. Well, you may not need that. But if you look at some of the medical containment that has happened around the globe recently, several weeks to a month or 2 months is not out of the scope of what might possibly happen. So worst case, you don't use all that stuff. You've stocked up and now that's fewer trips to the store for a while. Or you've now set a good baseline for your food storage for the next major event and you start working from there. So you've gotten a good, crash course on getting your food storage and your supplies all set up. So at least be ready for a couple of weeks if at all possible. Does your family have a continuity of operations plan in place and written down? The reason I say is it written down because if you're the one who developed the plan and you become incapacitated, they don't know how to access it. They don't know what you had locked in between your ears here, and they can't do the things that you need to do. They don't know the passwords to all of the business. Your spouse might not be able to get into the insurance policies. They might not be able, for medical insurance, life insurance, disability insurance. They might not be able to pay bills. You might not be able to go online and pay the mortgage, go online and pay the vehicles, go online and pay your insurance bills. Those kind of things all have to be logged in with passwords. Get that set up, write it down. There's all kinds of templates online available. You can download and it'll say, okay, this is the website, this is the login password, this is the username. Write all that stuff down and try not to use the same password for everything just for cybersecurity, because one account gets hacked, they pull that password, they're going to try it on all of your accounts. And if it works on the other accounts, well, they get into that too. But that's another topic. So you need to make sure you got all the passwords to all the accounts: medical, financial, insurance, mortgage, etc. Do you have a communications plan to reach out and check on family? Do you have written down at least the more priority members of family and extended family and neighbors that you need to check on? Write it down. Just don't leave it locked in a phone. If it's locked in a phone, and your spouse or somebody can't get into that phone to find the phone number to your mother or to your father or to your next of kin relatives, that's kind of a thing. It sounds a little bit morbid, but you almost need a next of kin list written out. That the reason for that is how are you going to notify that either your spouse is incapacitated or God forbid, dead. Somebody dies in the family. Are you just going to post it on Facebook and hope everybody shares it? That doesn't seem like a great way to share such important family information. So write that stuff down, be able to pick up a phone and say, hey, I need to call you and let you know that this is what has happened to your family or to their family. That's a pretty big deal. So where is that list of contact information? It should all be in your family contingency binder. If you're doing your binder properly, it's going to be about 3 inches thick, and it's going to have copies of all of your credit cards, insurance policies, mortgage documentation, vehicle registrations and titles, and birth certificates and passports and social security cards. And you see how that binder now starts to get pretty thick? So it should also have those contact informations, those passwords, all of that stuff should be in the binder. If you had to evacuate your house and can only grab one thing, that would be the best thing to grab outside of family, because that is the hardest stuff to replace. That's the stuff that is going to get you admitted back into your neighborhood after you were sealed out for a while. It's the identification. If you're sitting somewhere trying to rebuild your life, it'd be nice to have all of the foundational documents of your life. So something that I say definitely work on. Do you have legal documents in place for your family and for your extended family? Living wills. Do you have elderly parents? Are you the elderly parents? Could your kids be able to now handle your estate, your affairs, your medical directives? Don't leave them being locked out of the hospital room because they have a different last name than you do now. You've got to have those living wills. You got to have the power of attorney so that they can help make medical decisions for you. They have to have access to your banking to take care of that, to pay your bills for you while you're incapacitated. They've got to handle your estates. They got to be able to, like I said, have access to you for hospital visitation. So all of that is really important. A lot of it can be done online these days. At least write something down and have it notarized, if nothing else. Definitely something for you to check on if you have an attorney, so anybody's handling your family estate affairs, they can get you fixed up with a packet of information. So the other side of that is if you're caught in a situation far from home and one of your children gets ill and now a family member has to speak for them at the hospital or something like that, give that family member an actual documented power of attorney that says, yes, I can make medical decisions for the child. I can make these decisions for these people. Yeah, because if not, that's not going to happen in many cases. So it helps to have it all done. This is all part of your preparedness ahead of time. Part of your family continuity of operations planning, just like a business. You got to run your family like a business. Do you have someone that you can call on to go to your house, feed the cats, feed the dogs, maybe pick up the kids from school? So I had just previously done a video that says you're caught in a medical containment area. You're not getting out for weeks. You're stuck there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is. Now, how are you going to go get the kids picked up? If you're a single parent or both parents are stuck away, do you have somebody that you can pick up the phone and say, hey, can you go get the kids from daycare? Can you pick them up from school? Can you get them home? But in order to do that, those people need to know about that. And I recommend at least 2 separate people do it, because if one is incapacitated or unable, you can call somebody else to do that. Hopefully they're not in the same family, and now you've identified it, they know about it, you can reach them, they can help you in your time of crisis. This is all about why you vetted so hard for your survival group or your family for people that you trust your kids with. This is exactly why. This is why we're doing all of these things in the past, to get ready for this moment in case something really does go bad. So keep in mind that schools will have the restrictions on who's allowed to pick up children. You can't just walk in and say, hey, I'm here to pick up, Joe's kids. They're going to be like, we don't know you. You cannot have these kids. and you're like, well, he told me I could, and here's my text messages. We don't care. You're not an approved person on our database. You can't do it. Your driver's license was not photocopied into the system. You cannot pick them up. Your kid's now going to go to foster care until that can be resolved. So that's kind of a problem. So that's important that you pre-register those people that you want to pick up your kids. Make sure that they know about this and they accept that responsibility, whoever those people are. Make sure that they have the addresses to the school, that they know how to get there, what time the pickup are, what time the drop-offs are. Make sure that they have keys or codes to get into your home to drop them off or pick them up, or let the dogs out, let the cats, feed, whatever it is that they need to do. You've got to enable those people that are assisting you with all that information either ahead of time, or you've got to be able to transmit it to them or tell them where they can find that information in that time of need. So the current pandemic might not be the next zombie apocalypse, but if the household experiences a true medical event, hospitalization, or even death, the family has to be able to carry on. So the truth is, this pandemic is going to pass. There's no question about it. They always do. It might take 2 months. It might take 3 months. It might take some months to get things back to normal. The financial situation right now seems like it's going to be maybe a pretty big hardship for the planet, the way things are going. But at least the pandemic situation is going to pass. The president assured us personally that probably most of us are not going to die. I thought that was very eloquent. I appreciate that. Thanks a bunch. But regardless of whether this is the pandemic, a car crash, or we're just getting old, at some point in our lives, many of the things that we have already prepared for as family disruptions will happen. And the shinola will hit the fan for your family. So my question to you, will you be ready? Have you done these things? If you're locked in on medical quarantine or taking some unwanted time off because you now can't go to work or go to school, now's the time, instead of watching TV or doing other unnecessary things, get a binder out. Make the notes on this. Get your documentation in order. Inventory your supplies. Explain your plans and expectations to your family and to your survival group. That's where I am, and that's where I hope to find you too. So until next time, this is Charley Hogwood with Survival Dispatch, signing off. Check us out at insider.survivaldispatch.com for this and all kinds of other great training opportunities and information in the self-reliance world and preparedness. So until then, I'm out.